Hello everyone and welcome back. Today's video, we're going threadling, woven mail and unraveling crazy today with a fun and extremely effective strand warlock build. Our build will be using none other than the Swarmers and final warning sidearm to create a massive build that provides both debuffs and buffs for ourselves in GM Pacifics. And with thanks to the new seasonal mod introduced for strand, we can make our build increase its sever effect even more, get woven mail for everyone, and also create a lot of tangles for us to throw. If you're looking for a strand build this season, then I have something perfect for you. So let's start with the exotic armor, Swarmers, with exotic effect, Swarmers. It states, destroy a tangle spawns a threadling. Your threadlings unravel a target that they damage. The Swarmers have a high usage to where you can generally use it wherever you like. If you wish to get the best out of it though, then you need to make sure your fragments and aspects are on top to achieve this. Applying the Wanderer and Thread Evolution together will provide you with the ability to suspend, unravel and apply threadlings in a singular go. Combine this further with the Unraveling Orbs mod for strand weapons, and we can expand how much threadlings and tangles are created, and thus create a pretty powerful setup within only a few items to trigger it. Our exotic weapon now is the final warning, with its exotic effect all at once and pick a poison, which states, holding down the trigger marks targets within range and loads multiple bullets which fire in a burst with increased stability on trigger release. Hit a marked target with fully charged bursts will unravel them. Hip firing projectiles will trap marked targets, dealing increased body shot damage on impact. Aiming projectiles have greatly increased velocity and deal extra critical hit damage to marked targets. With sidearms being the popular weapon for barriers this season, it now gives you reason to actually use the following weapon more compared to before. It's a powerful sidearm that not only allows you to hit multiple targets at once, but also allow you to apply unraveling rounds on top of the multiple targets you hit, and also create a lot of threadlings and tangles within the few hits it makes. It's one of those weapons that looks like it's limited usage in most content, but actually does really great when paired up with the right fragments, aspects, and mods down the line. It works really well with the Swarmers, and does offer some unique interactions when used. For aspects and fragments you have the following: the Wanderer, where tangles you throw at targets will attach to them and detonate, causing them and anyone near them to be suspended. Mine's will Invocation, which will enhance your grenade type upon consuming them. Ours will be Shackle Grenades, which for a few seconds will allow a weapon to suspend targets upon kills. A Thread of Rebirth allows strand weapons a chance to create threadlings on kills. A Thread of Warding, where picking up an overpower will grant you woven mail. A Thread of Generation, where dealing damage generates grenade energy. And Thread of Evolution, which allows threadlings to travel further and deal additional damage. With the fragments and aspects in mind, I'd say the best way to expand our exotic sidearm effectiveness was to improve its overall debuffs. This meant that upon landing hits with my sidearm or machine gun, it would not only be able to do the base damage being done, but also additional damage such as the suspend, threadling, unravel, weaken, and sever effects. This is where Swarmers, the Wanderer, and Unraveling Orbs comes into play, as these will be aiding us with creating tangles and threadlings in one. The idea here is to make sure our weapon has unraveling rounds active at all times, as they increase the chance of tangles being created. On top of this will also weaken targets' damage via the sever effect, while also applying unraveling damage to targets as time goes by. This will allow us to spread our effects far and wide with just a sidearm in use, which is ideal as this will make it easier to trigger our exotic sidearm exotic effect more often, without needing to rely on other weapons to first weaken targets. Just to make sure this is being done correctly, we have added on the Horde Shuttle and Rebirth mod to make even more threadlings on the field, instead of just relying on our exotic boots and Thread of Evolution, which will also help enhance our army of threadling damage, to the point of making them more noticeable impact towards the major threats we face. While this is going forward, the Thread of Warding and Shreds will provide an extra layer of damage reduction via the woven mail, and lastly via Weave and Disruption Spike, Elemental Siphon, and Elemental Stew Charge will be increasing the effectiveness of Sever on targets, while also giving us an elemental pickup to use and super energy increasement. This overall provides a mighty punch for the build, which makes it great for most dungeons, PvE contents, and GMs you use it in. For mods and stats, we have Resilience at tier 10 for a 30% damage reduction. Along with the base stats, I've added the Thread of Warding fragment for a woven mail access, and to Shred seasonal mod, which is new, and also grants woven mail for me and allies. This won't be bounced off Thread of Transmutation, as we don't have the space to include it, but the given setup will make my Warlock tanky enough to survive lethal hits while under-leveled, for example. I've also added Elemental Resistance mod, as this will majorly help against certain elemental one-shots in game, such as the one-shot snipers in Endgame. For discipline, we have ours at tier 10 for a 1 minute 16 second cooldown via shackle grenades. Threadling grenades are also viable to use in the build since they will be heavily used throughout the build. However, shackles is better for the long term effect of stunning multiple enemies at once, but also giving us ample time to react when needed. Combining this with Mind Spun, for example, allows us to trigger multiple suspensions from our weapon alone, which goes perfectly in hand with Final Warning and its multi-targeting effect. So while threadling is good for the build as well, shackle offers more strategic usage in a larger scale. With the stats covered, here are the mods I would use to enhance my abilities cooldown as well. Impact Induction ×2 for a 17% grenade ability regen, Momentum Transfer for a 12% melee ability regen, a Distribution for a 4% all ability cooldown, and Outreach for a 12% melee cooldown. For the leftover and additional items, we have the following: Harmonic and Connect Siphon for where getting matching weapon kills will grant you an orb of power, Heavy Ammo, Reserves and Scavenger mods for a heavy weapon, Charged Up for a +1 and Charged by Light, Strand Surge mod ×2 for a 17% strand weapon buff, and Powerful Attraction, where casting your class ability will collect certain pickups within a 12.5 meters range. Now, as we have covered our main exotic primary earlier, it's time we go over the additional weapons applied for the build. What are shown are all recommendation, so please keep this in mind. Our secondary, we have the Loaded Question with Demolitionist and Frenzy. Ideally, if you intend to use a fusion in the build, then you should also make sure you have the Particle Deconstruction available as well. However, this can be ignored if you have reasons to do so, such as me having the Elemental Supercharged mod, which will grant me bonus super energy, and 2 Shreds mods, which will grant me and allies with Mel from defeated targets. Since our case is based around enhancing our strand weapons and ourselves, I decided to stick with a fusion either way as a general fallback weapon of choice, and also because the perks given does make it viable in endgame. For heavy, we have the Pro Memoriam with Hatchling and Frenzy. I was originally going to use Watchful Eye Arc Machine Gun instead, just so I could activate a few Arc seasonal mods in the build, but decided against it at the last moment. Since Unraveling, Sever and Threadling's on the main play here, it would ideally be smart to get the following role I have, or just get a role that has Threadlings on them as well. The weapon will be used against bosses and such, but its main effects lie within ad clearing and getting those Unraveling rounds available to apply additional damage for a very long time. With Arc being the most prominent subclass to use this season, let's not forget that both Void and Strand have a little something available for those who wish to mix things up. The build is a familiar one that many of you here would have most likely used back when Strand was first introduced. However, now we have the reason to actually use it even more for GMs, with thanks to Sidons being anti-barrier, and Strand having a number of seasonal mods available for players to use. In fact, with or without the seasonal mods, the build plays amazingly when you can suspend with ease, unravel multiple enemies at once, get damage reduction, super and elemental pickups just from matching the elements you have, and more when you add on the Arc or Void seasonal mods to the mix as well, if you wish. In my example, I've only added one weapon that's Arc based, which is my fusion, although I could switch it to another Arc weapon against bolt charges as we play, and it's not entirely needed since bolt charges with allies is fairly easy to get. My fusion, however, can have the Particle Deconstruction mod applied to it, which would be a massive bonus towards our base damage and unravel damage over time. But of course, the build can use Void weapons instead that will allow you to expand and apply volatile hits on the targets, all the while releasing a debuff that weakens them and anyone else around them. So if you wish to push this further, you can create a fully exhaust, sever and weaken build, which can in practice make you a walk-in bubonic plague. If you include Unraveling Orbs, Vile Weave and Disruptor Spike into the build as well, then this makes fully sure Final Warning or generally any strand weapon can sever a whole room in little under a second. It's actually bonkers how amazingly efficient Strand is this season, and generally overall when you put it together. So if you can tolerate using a Sidon in endgame content, then you'll get pretty far with a build designed around unleashing pure utter hell to everyone. So there we have it. I hope you all enjoyed the build breakdown. If you have any thoughts on the content shared, then please leave a like, a comment and a sub while you're here. I'll leave a dim link for the build below, and if you want more stuff like this, then I have playlists available covering all types of builds you desire. It was great sharing today's video with you all, and I hope to see you again soon.